Hey crew, thanks for being a part of the 80/20 family. Thanks for being here. I'm Chris Young. I'm excited to cover managing a lead and the powerful platform that you have for that. And we're excited to go into detail on some of the processes within the platform, lead management, opportunity management, transactions, dispositions, acquisitions, all of that fun stuff. We're gonna run through a scratch org, which is just kind of a demo org here. So just keep that in mind. They do run a little bit slower than production org, just kind of like a sandbox, but that's okay. So we're starting on the home page here, and we're going to run through creating a lead and working through a lead, and then we'll keep going from there. So from the home page, if you want to create a lead, or really from anywhere, even first things first, maybe you're not an 80/20 CRM, maybe you're somewhere else in the platform, a different app, and the tabs don't look familiar to you. If you've got leads, that's fine. It may though show up a different layout. So jump into 80/20 CRM. From leads, we can just hit the drop down arrow here and hit new lead. And we're just gonna create a test lead here for Chuck Norris. And we're gonna say he's looking to sell a home. Lead source, we're gonna say this came in from, now if it were PPC, we're gonna say PPC. That would have likely come in automatically through an integration, so you don't have to worry too much about that one. But we're going to go ahead and add a campaign as well for this guy. If we had markets, maybe Detroit, maybe Florida, maybe rentals, whatever you have, you can attach that there. Any comments that have come in, usually you don't have to do this manually. 9 times out of 10 or more, this is gonna come through automatically. We're going to go ahead and put an address on this one. Going to use one I'm familiar with here. And then there's other data available. If you had a second contact, you could add that here as well, maybe Chuck's wife or sidekick. If you've got 80/20 data, you may already have a property score in here if leads came in automatically, but just wanted to show you some of the details in here. A lot of this is for tracking as well, so you don't have to worry about much of any of it. Really, we need a name. If you've got contact info, always good to know the lead source, the contact types, typically a seller, we default a lot of that. And that's about it, right? A couple of fields will really get you started. I'm gonna go ahead and leave contact info for now. We're gonna save this. Now this is an REI record type. You'll notice when I went to create the lead, it asked, do I want residential REI or do I want retail? In this case, we're saying this is direct to seller. We're gonna try and purchase this house straight from Chuck. It's going to pop open the lead for us, and we can see here the select active property has got that address kind of pre-populated, but you notice it does say create because we haven't officially attached that yet. So what that's going to do is going to go see if that property already exists in our data set. If it does, it'll pull it forward. If it finds multiple that look really similar, it will actually give you a table of those, and you can select which one you want to use. If it doesn't find anything that matches, it will just create a new one for us. So let's go ahead and attach that, and it's going to, again, check the property database, see if we've got something and bring it forward if we do. Looks like we did, so you'll notice it went ahead and pulled the property details. Now, if it didn't bring anything forward, those were empty, you can retrieve the county record details with this guy right here. And that's gonna sync in using an API. It's gonna go get a tax amount and data, bed bath count if we've got it, a CMA and some other information and pull it forward right there. Now, if you have multiple properties, or this is not the one he's actually selling, you could add an additional property right here. And you can search for your existing properties, or you can add new and then attach that there. I won't get into that now. Something else that you've got right here is I can jump to Zillow and check out this property. It looks like it's an estimate of $820. Great. Rent is estimate of $4,000. I can also skip trace that property, which is really, really useful. If it just came in from PPC and it's address only, for example, or it came in through another source and you got one number but it's no good, you can skip trace live right there on that property. You can of course do that in bulk too, but it really expedites the process. It's pretty good coverage nationwide. There's always pockets with any skip trace provider you use. There are always pockets that have a lower hit rate than others, but we've tested quite a number of them and had the highest rate with this provider. We are actually looking at waterfalling that as well and implementing that here in the near future, so that if this one doesn't hit, we'll check a couple more and see what we can get. But we did retrieve some information there on that skip trace. So I went ahead and I pulled the property data. I skip traced the property. We can see the skip trace record here, right? So we've got that skip trace record and information, and then we've also got the communication records that came forward for that person. All right, let's see what else we've got. So on the left-hand side of this lead, we have the standard page layout fields: name, contact information, address. We can see a quick street view. We've got second contact information, mailing information, which we did pull from the county record data. We've got an engagement score and a lead score here. We've also got a property score and a pillar score. Like, why do we have so many? I'll talk through each of those real quick. The engagement score is how recently has this person engaged with us? Do we have text communication, phone call information, website hits? And so right now, because I just created it, it's low. It has a little bit of engagement because we figure we must have communicated with them somehow. But that will go up as they communicate with us and are fresh. The property score, this is an 80-20 field that comes from a high process data set to give you a score from 0 to 1,000 on the ideal nature or priority of this property. And that's a combination of, does it fit your buy box, which if you've used 80-20 REI data, you're familiar with that setup. Does it fit your buy box? How likely of a deal is it? How many distresses do they have? Those combination of data points will bring in an overall property score. The pillar score, now this is based on, for REI data specifically, and retail as well, actually, we do cover both. What are those pillars that we capture? So condition, time frame, motivations or distresses, price point, and competition. So those 5 pillars, there's a scoring structure inside there based on the input you put in, and it's going to score this property and again help you prioritize it. The lead score is a combination of these things along with other data points we found to have high impact on the quality or priority of a lead. So that includes, of course, engagement, property, and pillar score. It also includes lead source, recency of engagement, how new the lead is, and quite a number of other factors get baked into that as well to determine, is this a good, high quality lead that we should go after? So you've got those available to you there. I'm going to go ahead and add contact to in this case, just for demonstration purposes. So we'll call this, Mary Norris, and maybe that's a little, let's see, contact to, say seller also, and we'll add a mobile here. Real creative. Actually, let me do something else so that I don't end up with duplicate numbers. Okay, so we added Mary there, second contact if needed. Now, of course, if you've skipped trace and there's relationships that are brought in or other data, that can be tracked in communication records as well. So we see that Mary's information was added here, which is a great thing. And we'll go over that in a little more detail in a second. Okay, so we've got a new lead created. Basic details, property attached, county records retrieved, skip traced if needed. Across the top, I have my lead statuses. So here, I can see this is called guidance for success. So if I'm not sure what a status is or means, then I can go ahead and drop this down and I'll get a little bit of information on each of these statuses. And I'll go ahead and talk through each of these. Now these are the 80-20 CRM default statuses. You are free to change them. And we have status and stage maps that we, so that we can tie your updated fields or values back to our original ones for automations and triggering marketing campaigns and marketing cloud and journeys and other things of that nature. So here we can see this one just shows new. We created it as new. Here's the fields of most interest when it's a new lead. Like, let's just make sure we know their name, what they're looking to accomplish, what problem are we solving, what's their need, and then some basic contact information, email, mobile phone, and then where'd the lead come from. So those are just 5 basic fields to try and capture there. And then, hey, what are we trying to do? First things first, feed the lead, man. Let's establish contact right away, text them, call them, make sure that this is a good lead, and this is marketing qualified. Now we want to sales qualify it. We want to make sure we hit those pillars and get that information back from them to determine if we want to proceed forward. So I'm going to jump back a little bit and kind of go to the beginning and work left to right. These are not linear, just as a heads up. They can move whichever way you want them to move. First is unqualified. Right? So this is, hey, don't waste your time on it. They're kicking tires, or they're a spammer, or whatever it is. This is not a real lead. We don't want to go after it. It's going to drop them out of the list views. And the things we want to capture here is, hey, why did we qualify them, and any notes to that. The next one is prospect. So this is if you're putting prospect data in, maybe to mail, or to cold call, or just you want to have your lead prospects in here. Salesforce can handle really high volume data, so that's fine. It's fine to have them in the leads. Maybe your 80/20 REI list you put in here. That way, whenever they raise their hand and say, yep, I'm interested, then you can jump it over to new, or the process, the system will automatically most of the time. If it's a call, or it comes in on a campaign channel, maybe a web form or another process, then it'll move them over to new automatically. So that's what prospect is. And here again, similar, right? We're just trying to capture, do we have the right person? Do we know what they need? Do we have a rating for them generally, so we can start working them? The next one is long-term nurture. So this one is, if you've kind of gone through the process, or maybe even as a prospect, and you've determined they're 6 months out, they're a year out, 2 years out, then you can drop them into long-term nurture. That will turn on Marketing Cloud journeys and start to communicate with them automatically through email, text message, add them to call queues, that sort of thing, just to keep your brand in front of them for a couple of years. And that does start a little closer, but then space out as it goes, so you don't oversaturate any of those marketing channels. And here again, like, the goal of it being in long-term nurture is, of course, either to A, unqualify them, like get them out of our hair so we're not working data we shouldn't, or B, get them back into new or contacted or working, or even better, get them to converted. So kind of a holding queue for those that we know need some attention. Next one is new. We already covered that one. Then contacted. So this one is, we've established contact with them. We've confirmed the address. We've confirmed what their interest is, maybe the best time and method to contact them in the future. We've got a good number to reach them at. And we've new lead came in. This is speed to lead. We've established that contact. We're not working them yet, right? Maybe they said, hey, call me back, or maybe you weren't able to have any conversation with them, but at least contacted them. The next is working. This means we are actively working this lead. So it's come in new, or it was prospect, whatever the case, we've contacted them. Now we're having that conversation about the pillars that we talked about. Tell me about the condition, the occupancy, the price point, all of those things. And we're trying to gather that information. So you can see some of those here. Why are they selling? What's their time frame? What's their motivation? Do we have the decision maker? And these can be changed, by the way. So if you want to change what's here, totally cool. But we recommend having your pillars in here. And maybe we swap one of these out, and maybe I will actually put asking price in there and competition, just a few other things. So you are limited to 5, but always want to make sure you got the best ones. The next is nurturing. So we've had the conversation with them. They're just not quite ready yet. Maybe it's a month or 2 months out, or maybe they just need a little more motivation. This will kick on Marketing Cloud journeys also. So we have warm nurture journeys. It's about 100 days long. And that will hit them in at a little bit higher density than long-term nurture. Same channels. Make sure you stay in front of them, so when they're ready to go, they come back to you first. So that is automatically turned on. Something to keep in mind, if a lead sits in contacted or working for too long, you can turn this off. We'll cover this in a minute. But if it doesn't see any future activity, it will kick them into nurturing on its own, thinking, like they might be falling through the cracks. Our bucket is leaking, our funnel is leaking. Let's make sure to keep in front of them. So that will kick them into nurturing. turn on the nurturing campaign, and then run for that 100 days. Once it hits the end of the nurturing campaign, if it still sees no activity, they're still just sitting in that journey, and you'll have to excuse me for using campaign and journey a little interchangeably. They're not really. A journey is really a drip sequence versus maybe a outbound marketing campaign. So if it gets to the end of that nurturing journey, it will push them into long-term nurture and continue that that sequence. The next one is converted, right? The place you're trying to get to. And this is, did we get the pillars? Do we have enough information? Do we have the decision maker? And are they willing to move forward? Usually that can be identified by, are they willing to set an appointment? I'd say 98% of the clients we work with across the country, that's their criteria. Do we have the decision maker and hit the pillars? And are they willing to set an appointment with us to move forward? If that's the case, then we convert this lead over and we start working it as a sales qualified lead, and we start working that opportunity funnel. We get that appointment assigned to the field agent or the acquisition rep, and then they start working through underwriting and other pieces, and we'll cover that in a minute. So those are your statuses. Your lead status is a definition of what those mean. Next on the page, you have your highlights panel right here. This is going to give you some buttons, basic buttons. I can skip trace the record. I can mark it as read, which I'll show you. If you have new unread communication, then this will go red with a little bell on it saying, hey, there's a text message, there's a phone call, something, maybe they hit a landing page. And you'll see that from the list views also. But once you've jumped in and you're like, hey, I'm good, I've read this, you can knock that, hit that button or here. You can also turn on an automation if you'd like, that if you make a phone call and this is in unread status, and that phone call is longer, I think, than 20 seconds or so, then it will auto mark it as read and let you move on without having to toggle it yourself. Some people prefer the automation, some prefer to have their team manually do it so they know for sure that it was checked and looked up on. If you need to change the owner of the lead, you've got two places to do that. So I can click this button here and it'll have a little pop-up on who you want to change it to. You don't have to toggle this notification email. We automatically have one that sends out that actually has a little more information than this one does. So you can change that. You can also change it to a queue if you want to put it back into a queue, right? So you may have a lead intake queue, for example, and you can say, hey, I'm not working this. I want to push it back to the queue and let someone else claim it and take ownership of it. I can also change ownership from here. So the same thing there. And you will notice that when you change the owner, open notes and attachments and activities like tasks are going to reassign to that new owner. All right. The next thing you'll see here is to change the record type. Super useful and important button here if you're in both retail and REI space, or maybe you have other record types, recruiting, construction, property management. There are others. If you've got those turned on, then you'll see those options as well. And you can just toggle this and that will change the layout. So you'll see the left-hand side, and this in some cases will stay similar or the same, in some cases will change. The middle panel you'll see will likely change, and some other options on the screen will change depending on that record type. The data will stay, it will keep the data of course, but that record type will change. Then an action plan. If you don't have these automated, most of the time this will be automated. You don't have to do this manually. There will be triggers set up to fire action plans. So you might say, well, what's the difference between a journey, marketing cloud journey, and an action plan? Think of journey as outbound marketing communication directly with the seller that can be automated through bots and through other pre-curated content. Think of action plans like internal business logic. What's the next thing that I should be doing, or what communication should be sent out to maybe other related parties, or action should I take on this record to move it forward? So it's like an internal cadence that we would want to have, our team would want to have. All right, so that's action plans. And then if you want to clone the record, of course you can. And the most useful time to clone a record is if you've got multiple properties that should be handled separately. Maybe one is a commercial property and one is a residence, and you want to handle those separately, but you want to keep some information, you can do that. Or two, if you've converted a lead and it's gone to an opportunity and you realize that this is not ready to be an opportunity, you may, once a lead has been converted, it's not really usable anymore. And that's on purpose. That's a Salesforce law of the universe. That's so that a lead manager doesn't keep working a lead on accident or adding data to it when it really should be worked from the opportunity. And so, but if it needed to come back, you can't revert them back. And so you could delete the opportunity and clone the lead and kind of start it again and then reconvert it later when it's ready. So that's another time that might be useful. Okay, so kind of working across the page, tags here, you may or may not have this in your instance if you've got them turned on or not. We're working on bolstering tags. This is actually called topics from Salesforce, and it's a way of organizing, think of it like hashtags, right? Organizing topics. And I could add, something like REI, for example, as a tag to this property. I could add, maybe this, if I wanted to tag PPC, or maybe something about the property type, then I could tag it. You can go into those tags and see the records related. There's not a ton of other filtering though that can be done with those tags, which is what we want to bolster. We want to add some capability around that, so that like your list views and other powerful features, you can filter on those. So a little bit more coming on that. Salesforce doesn't really use tags a lot. It does use pick lists and multi-select pick lists to filter things on, and so we're going to try and merge that capability a little bit. The next thing you see, the activity composer here, and this is got all of the actions or activities that you need to perform from a record. Now you'll see it on the lead, you'll also see it in a number of other places. I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of the activity you're going to perform will be done from here. So if I click call, we will see the numbers load from the different phone fields that we've added throughout our process. So we can see the mobile phone field, right? That was here. Now I don't have the phone turned on in this scratch org, which I really should, and that's unfortunate. And so these are not highlighted blue, but with your phone system turned on, these will be highlighted, maybe not blue, whatever your link color is in your org, and they'll be click to dial. So you'll be able to click them, it'll pop the phone, soft phone open, and you'll be able to dial out or text message depending on your phone provider. So one of the things that we've done to make sure that we can handle phone numbers effectively, because when you skip trace you could get so many, is it has its own record that you can then say, hey, what kind of number is this? Is it a disconnected number? Is it a decision maker? Who is this person? What is this phone number? And so you've got the ability to handle that. So let's say this is the decision maker. And if I mark them as disconnected or wrong number, or some other things, it will drop those numbers off the table so that my team's not working those numbers when they shouldn't be, right? If it's a bad number. So just a way of keeping track of those numbers. Then we've got the SMS here. So if you're using 360, this panel will show up. Some phone providers don't have a separate panel, so you would have it built into your cell phone. So you can still click the number and then text from there. And then email, if you want to send out an email, no problem. Log a call. So this is either I went on a sales call, or maybe they called my mobile phone directly, not through a system phone, and I want to track some details. So we're just going to add some details in there because it wasn't able to track from a mobile call, so I don't know. And we're just going to say this was a call, lead management, and I'm just going to save that for history's sake, and we'll show you why in a minute. Now tasks, these will a lot of times be auto-created for you for Marketing Cloud or other places, unless you would like to have your team manually creating them. We default to follow up. We try and capture the purpose or function, the due date. So let's say, hey, I want to call him tomorrow. I want to give a reminder time tomorrow. He asked me to call at 1:30. And so I'm going to create a follow-up task for myself, normal priority. Maybe there was some conversation about it. You want to add more details. So I'm going to save that task. And we'll check some of the things that that's doing in the back end here in a minute too. Now we won't schedule an event yet, so we'll assume, hey, we haven't gotten it to an appointment. And so just as, I guess, another quick run through, property or lead came in. I pulled the county record data if I needed it. I skip traced it if I needed. I could jump to Zillow as well. I attached this property to the record. Now, a lot of this can be automated right up front. You don't have to do any of those things. But of course, skip tracing county record, there can be costs associated. So we want to be careful with that. Very inexpensive, pennies obviously, but just still being aware. And then I've started to, work this lead. Of course, the very first thing we should be doing, gather that detail just to prepare ourselves for a call, and then get on the phone right away, right? Like, let's just get them on the phone as soon as possible. And I'll show you some of the detail that's available to you. We can work through this call script while we're on the phone. So let's go ahead and I'll just quickly glance through the rest of these. So you've got, if you need to create an event, if you want to add a note, now this can be kind of like a journal entry of sorts. You can bullet it, you can add a little more formatting to it. If you have files attached, in a lead, you're rarely going to have files attached, so you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. And then if you need to use AI or you'd like to use AI, that is available for you as well. So you've got the freedom to send whatever you'd like. And this is using OpenAI's model 4.0. And it is free for use for you. We pay for it, of course, but free for your use. And we use AI throughout the platform in lots of places. But this is, we found, put a text template together, put an email together, tell me about a location, give me some information about something, have a conversation. You can do those things with it. And that's available for your use there. It's also available, of course, down in the utility bar. So we're on the phone with Chuck, and we want to gather the information, right? So I'm going to kind of simplify back to that lead process. It came in, and I'm, obviously this is a lot longer than it really needs to be, so we'll do a condensed version. The lead came in, I attached the property and captured any details I needed to. I got on the phone, and I'm just going to start that basic conversation, confirming information that I have or need, right? That's the lead intake section. Any additional information I need about the property, I can ask about. You'll notice here, we've already got a lot of the property details because when we retrieve it from the county, we've got a lot of that information available to us. And I'll just show you some of those things that are here. You've got, the features of the property, subdivision, bed, bath count. We've got the legal description and parcel number. The owners and their ownership duration and equity is here. Their mortgage history, first and second mortgage if needed. Values and comps. Now this is really useful if you're wanting to get an idea before you have their conversation on the value of it. Of course, that Zestimate is helpful, but you can also jump in and preview your own comps if you'd like. And you can drop these off too and say, hey, you know what, these ones over in a different subdivision, maybe I'll drop those guys off. We've also got this one over here. It's 4474. Let's drop that one off. And then let's just grab this last one, 4485, and drop that one off. And we'll just stay in this subdivision here. So we can see we've got those 4 remaining, our values updated, and you can see we're starting to get a tighter confidence interval there on those comp values. So you've got your AVM, which came from the data provider, and then you've got these comps, which are calculated from here based on what we just removed, or what we kept rather. And this average dollar per foot is just a straight average dollar per foot of each of these sales against what our square footage is of the property. This weighted one is going to prioritize the properties that are most similar to the subject property in their size, their distance, how long ago the sale was, those sorts of things. So it will start weighting that price per foot based on a similarity score. And that's why that one's a little bit different. All right, so I think we saw 820 from Zillow, if I'm not mistaken. We've got 800, 825 on this average, 780 here on this guy. So we got a pretty good idea of where we're started. Now, to get a true ARV, you may want to jump into MLS or something that also gives you pictures to make sure like, hey, these comps that I'm using, were they recently flipped? If that's my intent, right? If I want to get that value. The last thing that's here is motivation. So this one just says high equity. So nothing else interesting on this property. Probably not one we'd be, working. There's no pre-foreclosure, death, liens, nothing that I see that's a high motivation other than high equity, which can, of course, be its own motivation, but leads to other sets of questions. All right, so let's close this guy in property. The next one is occupancy. So you can see we've already got this tenure or ownership length in years because that came from the county record data. If I want to capture occupant type, maybe it's a family friend, maybe it's owner occupied, you can do that. And then if it's a tenant, rent and move out date. Property condition, tell me a little bit about the house, what kind of condition it's in. And here you've got, these are actually tied to your pillars. And we can update these names, whatever you'd like. And I think I will actually on some of these to give you a little more information. Let's say it's average condition, recent updates or repairs, just comments there, of course. Let's jump into motivation, reason for selling. Let's say he's downsizing. They don't need it anymore. You can see high equity is already here in our stacked list of motivations. His time frame, 30 days, actually looking to move pretty quick. No competition on this one. And, if you had an obstacle that you were facing, then you could add that there. And let's go ahead and add oldest just moved out, looking to downsize and wants to move fairly quickly. All right. So we've got some motivation comments, financials, asking price. I don't know, let's say he's reasonable. And his estimate was 820, CMA's there. Now we could say, let's say we grab an ARV and it's, $1 million or something like that, right? So then we can kind of roll with that. Max amount available. So we gather asking price on that phone call. Hopefully we get some information from them. They may not give it to us, but if they did, we've got it. So let's just save, let's go ahead and save those details of what we just captured on that lead intake call. We can see some comments pushed over here. They will be categorized by the section they were in. We'll also see our lead score jumped up dramatically because we know a little bit more about it. Our pillar score went up and our lead score both because we gave it a lot more information or detail to be able to score that lead on. So really helpful for prioritizing your leads, having that score, gathering some of that information on the call and placing it into those locations. Of course, with AI, our next step or iteration or evolution is you don't have to place any of those. You just take the phone call and AI pulls that data out and pushes it all into the field. So that is coming soon to the 80/20 CRM. So it's something that's not available out of the box with Salesforce, but we're looking to deploy across text messages and phone conversations. All right, so let's say we had that phone call. We talked a second ago about them not quite being ready. Let's say we'll put it in working stage here. And then I want to show a few other of the features here on the lead just to be aware of. Over here in activities, so just keep in mind, you may see these gray boxes throughout the platform. They mean you've got another column over there where you can expand or collapse sections. We showed the tags, but also we've got some activity metrics. We can see we had an outbound call because we logged a call. We can see we have a follow-up for tomorrow. Next activity is there, how many we've completed. So this is one way of viewing those activities. Another way, a simpler way, is right here in this dropdown. And so this guy is going to give us our notes, and let's go ahead and capture notes so we can show that. And we'll save that note. And we'll see that hit our stream here, and we can kind of expand that up or down if we need to. And so this is a great, quick way to get a digest of what's happened and what's upcoming. So I can just see the phone calls, the notes, the text messages, the tasks, emails, other things will hit this, and I can filter them as well. So if I just want to see the call logs or the tasks, then I can do that. All right, so that's a useful quick feature of if I'm just want to review, see where we at on this lead, who was the last one to contact them, I can see that here really quickly. I can also edit that from here too. So I've got a pretty centralized location. I can delete it. I can click into it to get more information if I need. Real centralized location to gather that information. The next thing here that you'll see is this little Einstein character. This will summarize the whole record, including the activities, and provide some AI insights on the record. Really useful for gathering everything and giving you a quick summary of what's the story here, like what happened. So we can see the lead summary here. We can find some financial insights based on what we're able to pull. It's the activity summary, so what's that agent been doing on it, and then some other insights and recommendations, next steps. So we got follow up on the scheduled task, on the pool, and then some stats. So it's pretty useful for capturing just a really high level summary on all this data everywhere. So whether that's you jumping into a new lead or maybe a lead manager reviewing it, that's available for you. And that can refresh on a daily basis if needed. All right, so that's part of the activity composer. We worked through the lead intake form. We worked through the communication records and seeing what those are. And if you need to add a new one, maybe Mary has another number, another email, feel free to add a new communication record, and that will be available to use. We looked a little bit at some of the activities. So this is Salesforce's out-of-the-box activity timeline. We prefer to have it front and center and to condense or consolidate a little bit, so we made our own. But you've also got this one, and you can remove it if you don't like, but you can expand all here and see a little bit more information about each of those activities. It does not include notes and files and doesn't segregate out calls and SMS and some of those things. So we were trying to give you a little bit more granular view to that activity. And so that's why we created that. Chatter here, if you need to have a conversation about this record. You can, of course, at someone. Oh, you know what? I don't have their person in there, so I use user. Call, we need to review comps, whatever, right? You can and post something there. On the marketing side, you're going to see what journeys Chuck is in, been a part of. You'll see the campaign history, email sends, SMS history, and then of course all your related records. So the properties that are tied to it, skip trace and communications. If there was a buy box here, of course, if it's a buyer or maybe a retail buyer, you'll have that data. Prospects would be if this is a buyer that came in interested in some properties. You could have prospects attached there. Comps that we've created, we didn't write a comp, though I should have shown that. You can, when we were looking at those comps, you can hit the button update comps and it will create that record for you. Markets that this property is attached to. If we had specific markets, and those will add there. Action plans that have fired, that are active, a whole bunch of stuff that's available to you here, almost too much sometimes. And then the lead history, what's happened on that lead. So if you need to find that data, just know that it's there available for you. So we've worked with Chuck. Let's say we had a phone call with him and he's ready to schedule an appointment to review, right? So let's go ahead and say we had our follow-up. So let's finish that activity. We had that call with him and he's ready to move forward and schedule an event. So now we're going to show converting the lead and setting the appointment and working the opportunity. All right, so let's go ahead, move forward with that one. So you'll notice now we have no next activity. Follow-up has updated here to the last activity. So in our list views and other places, I can see what's got no activity, when were the last activities, those sorts of things. All right, so let's go ahead and convert this guy. I can do this in two ways. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I want to keep in mind this left-hand panel. If you need to edit something from here, you can click the pencil icon, you can double-click a field, or you can click edit from right here, and that'll bring open this modal for you, right? So a little backtrack there, but just wanted to show that capability as well, because sometimes there are fields here that you just want to customize quickly from there. And then the property, you do have a map here, and I can expand this out if I need to. I can click into it and go there more specifically. I can put it into a street view if I want to put it into street view. Let's just go down here. Here's the property it looks like. Let's go one more. All right, if I need to look around and see what's going on in the neighborhood, I can do that and get out of there. Those property details that we showed here, also available on the site here. So maybe I'm not, let me just go out of there. So maybe I'm not ready here and I want to look at it here, I can. And then more property details and a kind of a quick look record is available here. And then if I had a picture gallery, I'd see that. So just a little bit more information on what's on the lead record. Not to overwhelm anyone. You don't need it to use it if you don't need it, but just know that it's there if you need it. A quick rundown of the process. The lead came in. We connected the property to see if we already had it, because if we already have it, what's the property score? What's the other information? I could add additional property if I needed. I pulled the county record data. I skip traced it. I got on the phone with those phone numbers. I started taking my notes in this lead intake section, which will give me a lead score and help me prioritize those properties, those leads. I worked them through contacted and working, which is of course going to track how long it took us, our speed to lead. Nice work. We kept it with 30 minutes. It stayed green. And then I'm converting it. They're ready to set an appointment. I'm converting it forward. So while there's a lot here, we don't want anyone to get overwhelmed with it all, because really the core is getting on the phone, making sure you're capturing that important information, getting them to an appointment and getting that set, right? And that's everything else is ancillary to kind of help and support that process if you need it. Okay, so let me go ahead and convert this one. So we marked it converted here. So I'm updating this status. Select converted status. I can also click this button. And from here, it's going to create an account and maybe a contact and an opportunity. You'll notice we have no company for Chuck, right? Maybe it should have been, what was his like total, what did he like total gym or something? He did commercials for a long time. So we have a person account because we assume we're working with a consumer, right? With a person. And so it's going to create an account and contact together. If we had a company here, it would create an account and contact separately. And then also it's going to look up for any matches over here, right? So we're going to let it create Chuck as a person account. It'll also create the opportunity. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to change the name. That's all happens automatically. If you want the opportunity owner to be someone different, you can assign that there, or you can assign it later, no big deal. So we're going to convert Chuck into an opportunity. And right now what it's going to do is going to move our activities, our tasks, our events, all of our communication records. It's going to move our property, and all the data that we have from the lead is going to move over to the opportunity record.